Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
It's tough and hard on senior citizens. We don't work, we're on a fixed income, we don't get enough money to live on.
Seniors in our state struggling to put food on the table.
The open meetings law is very clear. It says you can't do secret balloting.
The leader of a state watchdog group urges the newly elected Senate to send the right message.
Great human interest stories all throughout this team, starting with the head coach.
Tangibles that have made LSU college football's surprise story of the year. Hi everyone, I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Moreau. Much more on those top stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, a look at some of the other news making headlines across Louisiana. A new trade deal that got the blessing of President Donald Trump and House Democrats this week could lead to unparalleled growth for state agriculture. That upbeat forecast from farmers and politicians. The deal between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, known as USMCA, would replace the North American Free Trade Agreement if passed by the House and Senate. Louisiana Ag Commissioner Mike Strain says it's going to be huge for our agriculture. Strain has been working with federal officials on the pact for years. As the state broadens its efforts to combat hepatitis C, the health department announced this week that 10 Walmart locations around the state will offer free screenings for the infectious liver-damaging disease. Louisiana has hopes of eliminating the deadly viral infection. Walmart will offer the no-cost screenings every Wednesday afternoon until the 1st of February at pharmacies and stores located in Vivian, Ville Platte, New Iberia, Raceland, Oak Grove, Amite, Monroe, Denham Springs, Opelousas, and Morgan City. The screenings dovetail with the health department's work to expand access of the virus treatment so as many people as possible can be screened or treated. This is a story SWI first brought you this past July. The state Supreme Court building, a sprawling landmark in the New Orleans French Quarter, was formerly named in memory of the late Chief Justice Pascal Calagaro Jr. in a ceremony this week. The legislature voted in June to name the building that houses the High Court after Calagaro, the court's longest-serving justice who died last year. He served 36 years, including 18 as Chief Justice. The building is a 4-story marble giant that fills up a block of the quarter. It was completed in about 1910. The state Supreme Court ruled this week that a state law that sends a small percentage of local governments' motor vehicle sales taxes is unconstitutional. At issue is a 2017 law establishing the Uniform Local Sales Tax Board. The panel was established to provide guidance to local sales tax officials on tax collections. But in a legal challenge by the taxing bodies of St. James and Plaquemines Parish, the High Court upheld a district court ruling that the state cannot divert a portion of the locally approved motor vehicle taxes to the board. Two top Louisiana Republicans are urging GOP state House members to pick their next speaker without input from Democrats. U.S. Senator John Kennedy and Attorney General Jeff Landry sent Republican House members a letter suggesting that Democrats should not have a say in the majority GOP House's top leadership job. Kennedy and Landry say the people of Louisiana have spoken and have sent a clear message that they want conservative representation.
The Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank is literally a lifeline for some families in the Bayou State, and for many seniors, it can be the difference between having a meal and going without. A study earlier this year ranked Louisiana on top of another bad list. It says many Louisiana senior citizens are not sure where their next meal is coming from. For many, maybe even some of your neighbors, the food in trucks like these are all that stands between them and going to bed hungry.
It is tough. I never thought I'd be in this position. It's tough and hard on senior citizens. We don't work, we're on a fixed income, we don't get enough money to live on.
71-year-old Willa Pearson is one of dozens of seniors who sign up every month to receive a free box of food from the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank.
One in the back!
They come here because they have few other options.
I get Social Security. Before you get your check, it's gone.
She's part of a troubling statistic revealed in a study conducted earlier this year by the Feeding America organization. It found Louisiana is #1 in the country for senior hunger.
We have any more that's just ham or just pork, because all of this has to go.
These volunteers help food bank employees prepare the boxes for seniors who begin lining up before the food bank even opens.
Every month, it's the same thing for me.
And sadly, she's far from alone. Senior Clemenstein Clark still works and just found out about the program 3 months ago. She considers herself fortunate, just needing a little help here and there, but worries about others who are really struggling.
Especially if you're on a fixed income and how these utility bills is high and the water bill. And a lot of these senior citizens, their income is nothing. I feel sorry for them.
Food Bank President and CEO Mike Manning says the need for food statewide is great across the board.
If you just take our 11 parishes, that's the 11 parishes that surround and include East Baton Rouge Parish, you're talking about a meal gap from food insecurity of almost 20 million meals. And what we mean by that is we need 20 million more meals. After all of the federal feeding programs and after all that we do, we need 20 million more meals to ensure that people are getting 3 meals a day.
In the 16 years that you've been here, have you seen the need grow?
Need continues to grow. And the senior population continuing to emerge as more and more of a need for us.
He gave us a tour of the sprawling warehouse on South Choctaw Drive in Baton Rouge. Donations stacked up and ready to go. It's here with the help of a committed staff and volunteers. The wheels are constantly turning, often running like a well-oiled machine.
We have a very generous community that steps up to help us on an annual basis, and it's really the way we can continue to do what we do and even expand it. We're trying to do more and more, and especially in the rural areas that we serve, because it's so key to be able to get food to those individuals. It's really about community making a difference.
A community in need helped by those who can, and businesses and corporations who give back.
Our donors are about our mission. So we don't really see the impact that a lot of other organizations are seeing, because they understand what we do, they understand what we're about. For us, is maximizing every dollar they give us to feed as many people as possible.
Manning says in order to continue to be successful in feeding those in need, the food bank, like other charitable organizations, have had to make changes too.
We have a bulk packaging machine that allows us to take palletized boxes of product and pack it into individual servings. So we can take product that other food banks can't take, and we can repack it and distribute it.
So what happens if you guys go away?
I shudder to think what will happen if we go away. It's really a scary thought, because we are that last line of defense, filling that need for people who may be working multiple jobs and may not qualify for food stamps, but still need food assistance. So it's really key for us to focus on the children that we feed and the seniors that we're taking care of, and make sure that we can continue to do what we can to feed as many of those people as we can.
Back outside, those seniors, many who've worked jobs for decades and retired, now pull up and wait for volunteers to load those much-needed boxes of food to help them make it through the holidays. Their golden years, anything but. Ms. Pearson, tell me how important it is for you to get this monthly food.
Oh, I can't survive. I don't have money, for grocery. You do the best you can with what you have and just do without.
Now, the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank is always in need of food, so please donate if you can. But they also accept paper products, paper towels, napkins, and toilet paper to distribute along with the food they give out.
The mission of PAR, the Public Affairs Research Council, is to be an independent voice to offer solutions to better our state. PAR President Robert Travis Scott used his voice this week in a commentary to bring attention to the state Senate and a secret balloting procedure it could use to elect the next Senate president. So let's talk about your call to the Senate to repeal this secret balloting procedure.
Well, we have a brand new Senate coming in on January 13th. This will be a whole new crew. There will be some senators returning. There'll be some new ones. And they have a rule on the books that's been there since last time. And it calls for secret balloting for the first portion of this whole election process for who gets to be the Senate president. It's an election that takes place in the Senate every time a new term of senators come in. And this particular rule we can see goes against the Constitution, goes against the open meetings law, and it's bad policy.
Well, anytime you would hear secret and government in the same breath, that seems like it would create some issues.
It might. I mean, some things it's okay to be secret about. There's privacy issues that people have, but the open meetings law is very clear. It says you can't do secret balloting. And the Senate rule that they created for electing a new Senate president calls for secret balloting. So I think it's about as straightforward as you can get. Now, we have a new Senate in, and so they have a great opportunity to send a really strong message to say, we're coming in, we're a new crew, we're going to operate transparently, we're going to operate with accountability, and plus, our constituents will know whom we voted for. And that's what's really important. This is a public body, and when they vote, their constituents deserve to know how they voted. And this will be the first and probably one of the most important votes they'll make the whole time they're in the legislature.
Well, it also gives you an opportunity to send a message of your thoughts, and that's what you've done with this commentary.
Well, yeah, the Public Affairs Research Council put out a commentary requesting the Senate to suspend this rule when they go in, or better yet, just eliminate it. And I think what they would do is they'd send a very positive message if they did this. They'd be telling the public, look, we're a newly seated Senate, and we're going to be a very open and transparent Senate. And the way we're going to show that is very symbolically from the very first day to say, we're going to have an open election. Besides, I mean, practically speaking, it sounds like they've already picked their president.
Well, media reports are mentioning the name Paige Cortez from Lafayette.
That's right. Paige Cortez is a senator from Lafayette returning for another term. He's widely liked, and I've known Senator Cortez for years, and it looks like he'd be a very good Senate president. And there's been a lot of jockeying behind the scenes and discussions about how this is going to come out. And it looks like he may be the one, according to media reports that we've been seeing. Of course, there's still time between now and January 13th before we know for sure. But when they go in that day, we'll find out, first of all, whether or not he ends up being the Senate president. It's a very important position. I mean, they make committee assignments. They rule on all types of process in the legislature. And they make a lot of priorities for what the Senate looks at and doesn't look at. So it's a very important position.
With PAR putting out this plea, in a sense, do you have a gut feeling whether they may follow what you're saying?
I do. I think this Senate is going to be a Senate that comes in and says, look, we see this rule. We're not going to go along with this. We're going to do this the right way. And now, whether or not all of them will believe, as we do, that it's unconstitutional, it's illegal, and it's bad policy, I don't know. But I think they'll get the message that let's send a positive image of ourselves to the public as soon as we get in there.
So there's optimism on your part.
I think it's optimism, but it's also practicality. I mean, really, if someone were to actually challenge this, they could go back and take this to the courts. If they did a secret balloting that's clearly not allowed under the open meetings law that says you can't do secret balloting. So if they proceed with this, it is not impossible that whatever they did could be challenged, and they could invalidate their decision, and then they'd have to go back and do it again the right way.
So maybe it's simply the prudent thing to do also.
It's also the prudent thing to do. It's the prudent thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. It's the legal thing to do. And it's the most accountable thing to do. So do it.
Yes, it sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it very much.
All right, great.
If you want to know more about the work of PAR, check out their website at parlouisiana.org.
The future of the state legislature was the topic of one of two post-election panel discussions hosted by the LSU Riley Center for Media and Public Affairs and LPB.
Legislators and political pundits took a good look at what the big turnover in the legislature could mean, and strategists from each campaign looked back at the governor's race and even gave insider information on it. You can catch both conversations on a special edition of Louisiana Public Square, Election Reflection 2019. It's on Wednesday, December 18th at 7 o'clock at night. There is more info at lpb.org/public square.
Reed Hastings, co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Netflix, has long been a strong supporter of education reform efforts in our state. Thursday, he was the keynote speaker for the CABLE, or Council for A Better Louisiana, annual meeting. His message: nonprofit schools are working to improve struggling school districts.
Not all of you are pro-union, but I would say if you worked in a school district and every couple of years you worked for an idiot, you'd be pretty open to having a union. If you worked in a school district and saw your leadership change for sort of random political reasons, you'd feel pretty good about your teacher tenure. So the things that some of us don't like because of their effect on kids are natural outgrowths of the way we've organized school districts. So nobody's made much change in any of this until the last 20 years. And we figured out that nonprofits should run most of our public schools. Nonprofit governance, you all are intimately aware of. You get new board members who want to help the organization. They didn't have to run on change to get elected. They try to help you make it better. Nonprofits have consistency, values, purpose. They don't, although any nonprofit can be unionized, most of the employees feel so respected, they hardly ever are. Okay? So it goes with good management. Now, not every nonprofit is a perfectly managed organization, but the ones who are well managed with good boards and leaders, they grow and have impact. And that makes the biggest difference. So we started with nonprofit public schools about 20 years ago. And then there was the tragedy of Katrina, and the school system went entirely into the recovery school district. And now in New Orleans, you have a miracle. That school district in New Orleans was one of the lowest performing school districts decade after decade after decade. And yet today, it's an extremely high performing urban school.
Number one, LSU is considered the hottest team in the nation right now, and they are also the most talked about on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Shows people talking about the Tigers in the millions. It's been a magical year, but I wanted to hear from the man considered by many as the foremost authority on Tiger football, his thoughts about this team. So I sat down with my brother, Doug Moreau. Have you ever seen a team that resembles this team?
Never.
Doug Moreau has been closely linked to LSU for most of his life, so he knows Tiger football. He was an All-American at LSU in 1965, a star as a wide receiver and place kicker. Following the '64 season, he led LSU past Syracuse in the Sugar Bowl. He was the game's most valuable player. He caught a 57-yard pass for a touchdown, then kicked the game-winning field goal in a 13-10 victory. He's been involved as an analyst on the broadcast of Tiger games on either television or radio since 1972.
He knows a lot of things instinctively, and that's what makes him so special, is that he is a great passer because he anticipates things and knows where they are, knows who's going to be open, gets rid of the ball quickly, and he's very accurate with it. I mean, he's a special guy who's having a special year.
Burrow has already set the SEC single-season record for passing yards and, of course, many LSU records. He is surrounded by great players, but without his it factor, the Tigers would not be where they are. Moreau says what set the table for this year, he believes, began at the very end of last season.
And then in the bowl game, he had to kind of take it over, and particularly after he got blindsided on the pass interception that Central Florida returned for a touchdown. But he got off the turf, came back and threw. He's a quadruple threat, right? He can run. Now he's proven that. He can complete passes to himself, so he can be a pass receiver. He can pass, and he can spell his name 2 different ways and get away with it. And how many people have the ability to do all that?
In this one season, his last at LSU, he's had the ability to become a legend. Coach Ed Orgeron calls him the most important recruit player in LSU history. And speaking of history, the Tigers are the first team ever in the SEC with a 4,000-yard passer, Burrow, a 1,000-yard rusher, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and 2 1,000-yard receivers, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. But Moreau says there is so much more that has made this team what it is.
Those players on that team are so unselfish because, you know, when you have a lot of prima donnas, generally you'll run across a few of them in there. They kind of spoil the whole batch because they're unhappy, they're dissatisfied with things. Not so on this team. Everybody pulls for everybody else. They all want each other to succeed because they know as a team that they'll have success if they do that, and they'll all benefit. But it's great to see it in action. It doesn't really happen in most groups, but it happens with this group.
Yeah, I would say Ed Orgeron has to be largely responsible for all of that happening.
He is. He has created a culture from the time that he was here, but he's, you know, Coach O is one of these guys that is not ashamed to say, you know, I made mistakes back then and I tried to learn from them. And he has learned from them. And he has continued to become better and better and better in the manner in which he deals with his team. He lets his coaches coach. And he goes and hires good coaches, but they want to come now and work for him because he's a guy that you want to work with. There are so many humble, fine young men on that team. You just can't believe how many there are. That's a credit, again, to the coaches. They have selected character traits among their players who are not only great players, but they're great human beings.
It's hard to keep up with all of LSU's accolades. Orgeron is SEC Coach of the Year and finalist for National Coach of the Year. 30-year-old Joe Brady, the Broyles Award winner, as Assistant Coach of the Year.
Great human interest stories all throughout this team, starting with the head coach, all right? Because Coach O is a unique character among coaches. You don't find too many people from Moreau's who are coaching major college football, and he has the characteristics you would expect from a person from Moreau, which is great. I mean, what a great compliment to him. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that loves being the coach at LSU. He's glad to be LSU's coach. Not glad to be LSU's coach so he can get a different job, glad to be LSU's coach, proud of it. And proudly, you know, I don't know if I've ever heard him end the interview without "Go Tigers," but he means that sincerely. To him, that's the sign-off. That is a reminder to me, Coach O, that LSU is important to me. So that's the starting point. All of the coaches that he has selected to be coaches on his team, I can only tell you from the outside because I don't go sit in coaches' meetings, but the way that they work together and the way that they pull for each other, it's something unusual. It's special. And you go all the way down to the individual team members, from the youngest ones who don't play a lot yet but will, to the older ones that have the experience and the manner in which they interact with each other, the special things that they do for each other as far as being team members. And then Joe Burrow. And that's the real special ingredient. I mean, you got to have a great quarterback these days, both in college and in the pros, to be successful. And he is that, but he is a great leader in addition to just being a mechanical quarterback. He does all those things, but he does them in such a way, and that's made the human interest stories all throughout this team. Their goal is to play those games one game at a time and play them one play at a time. Let's not look ahead and see, well, we only have 2 games to be national champions. No, we have 1 game next week or 3 weeks from now. And so let's win that one first. And that, to me, that's the success in any sport, but particularly in football, which is such a team-oriented sport.
Our thanks to Doug Moreau. Thursday night in New York, LSU cleaned up with Thorpe, Maxwell, and Blitnikoff awards and others. Tomorrow night, by the way, is the announcement of the Heisman Trophy. And next up for LSU, the college football playoff semifinal match against number 4 Oklahoma. That's December 28th in the Peach Bowl. Well, everyone, that is our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, whenever you want with our brand new app.
Download it for free from your app store. This upgraded version features news, public affairs, documentaries, how-tos, and many more programs. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.